Hi, everyone. We are the Wayne County Sustainability and Innovation Team. I am Camille Johnson, joined by my teammates Juliana Mata, Saj McBurrows, Elisa Wang, and Amy Zhao. We combined our experience and expertise in environmental sustainability, urban planning, public health, public policy, and medicine to approach this project with our partner, Wayne County. Our client is the Wayne County Sustainability and Innovation Division. They are a newly established division within Wayne County's Economic Development Department that has been charged with managing and really strategizing around the county's climate resilience initiatives. Right now, their big challenge is how to approach climate change and climate vulnerability across the county. From 500-year floods to extreme heat, the county and its 96 municipalities, townships, and other communities are facing unprecedented climate-related challenges and extreme weather events. Although a lot of these issues are shared, planning up until now has been extremely siloed. You have cities that are creating their own climate resilience plans, that are coming up with their own infrastructure approaches, but no one is really working together to figure out how to mitigate these issues. Right now, the Sustainability and Innovation Division is really focusing their climate resilience efforts through the Wayne County Resilience Hub Network. It was launched in 2025 with an inaugural cohort of 11 community-based organizations that will engage in peer learning and sharing to co-develop emergency preparedness plans, but also to figure out what it looks like to approach climate resilience throughout the community from a resident perspective. So instead of saying, we're gonna start at the top, kind of like how sometimes like say DWSC can do, what does it look like for residents on the ground, because these initiatives are only as impactful and as effective as they're useful for residents. For this project, we really aim to support Wayne County's resilience efforts by developing 3 different tools that would help them structure the Wayne County Resilience Hub Network, because this is a newer concept for the state, but it's not a new concept in general. We wanted to help them figure out how they could best prioritize climate resilience issues and really focus their dollars in areas that are the most vulnerable to climate change. And we wanted to make sure that they knew how to effectively communicate both the resources they had and the issues that folks were experiencing. Before we dive in, we want to explain a bit about what a resilience hub is. So resilience hubs can be defined as community-based facilities that strengthen community resilience and enhance quality of life during normal times like today, where there's not really anything big happening, but also during times of emergency, like when we have really bad snowstorms or extreme cold or power outages. They work by bolstering community connectivity and self-sufficiency through resident deployed resources and community deployed resources, and also through creating community responses to emergency issues, both before, during, and after climate emergencies, with the goal of increasing the adaptive capacity of their communities, which basically means if there is an extreme heat day and folks need to leave their homes, if there's flooding and folks can't get out, how are we helping them? And then what does it look like to support them in the aftermath of that cleanup? So Resilience Hub resources can include community programs and social services, which you get through normal times. A lot of times these organizations do things like property tax exemption support or food distribution, but they also serve as cooling and warming centers. They provide food and electricity, medical supplies and aid, and again, emergency response support. So now Elisa will share about our deliverables that we created.
Thank you, Camille. So I will walk you through the work our team has been doing to help shape the future of Wayne County Resilience Hub Network. So over the year, we've developed our 3 key deliverables, our case study, our people tool framework, and the community projects. So together, we hope these will give Wayne County the tools it needs to build a stronger, a more connected, and a more climate resilient community. So let's start with the case studies. We explored 10 different resilience hub networks across the country. We also include a map where these networks are. So some selection criteria are that the networks we selected should be already in operation with at least 1 active hub and has a articulated hub expansion strategy. So the goal is to understand how these how other governmental institutions build their resilience hub networks, what are their current and future expansion strategies, and their funding sources, so that we can learn from the cases to provide us and the Wayne County a roadmap to see what's possible and where the Wayne County can innovate. So moving on to the people tool framework. This is a deliverable that we spend most of our time on, and we developed this framework hoping it will provide a clear and accessible snapshot of climate resilience for each municipality in Wayne County. So the framework is divided into 3 metrics: sensitivity, exposure, and adaptive capacity. So sensitivity measure includes social demographic factors that increase the social vulnerabilities related to environmental risk factors. Exposure metrics, including things like flooding, air pollution, water quality, temperature, so on and so forth. They also include indicators such as extreme heat, rainfall, wildfire, PM2 and 2.5. Last but not least, adaptive capacity looks at the resources and strengths that the community have, such as like national funding and some programs, social networks, and their community support systems. So here are, on your left-hand side is an example of the data sources of the indicators and their justifications. And on your right-hand side would be the examples of people tool indicator descriptions. So we have like indicators, and for each indicator, we will have definitions, and we also have an explanation of it. So for the community projects, we hope that beyond the case studies and also the people tool framework, our community projects are the community-based side of things. And we hope that by providing an interactive story map, it will bring all the Wayne County's communities' work to life, and to create discussion volumes around what resilience means to cohort members, how climate change is affecting local residents, and how resilience hubs are meeting in those needs. So when we think about our impact, this is the community, some of the photos taken and when we visit some of the network members. So when we think about the impacts of our work, each deliverable actually plays different roles. So our case studies provide a implementation roadmap to help and guide Wayne County's strategy to grow the partnerships and to support community education. The People Tool framework helps pinpoint exactly where the resilience needs are the greatest, and also inspiring new initiatives and helping the county to understand their risk to prioritize the resources. Last but not least, for community projects. So community projects brings everything to life by boosting community engagement, strengthening connections, and making climate education more accessible and humane.
So we learned a few lessons from this process, which involved interviewing stakeholders across the nation, talking to local organizations, and doing research to see what's currently happening. One of the first things we learned is that resilience hubs can build the adaptive capacity of cities by connecting like-minded organizations. The resilience hubs that were the most successful really were intentional about making sure that the partner organizations that were part of their network built their own relationships and started their own integral kind of sub-partnerships to really keep their work moving. We also learned that creating a centralized map of resilience helps better educate the community on shared issues. A lot of times communities will think they're the only ones dealing with a certain issue, or they just won't be aware of other issues that are going on or other resources. What we saw is that folks that had actual maps that showed where different resources and issues were able to kind of do their own self-education in supporting residents, because that's a big piece of resilience. We also learned that residents and community organizations view climate resilience as a major priority. They may not always use the language that we use around adaptive capacity and vulnerability, but pretty consistently folks have the same concerns. They're worried about flooding, they're worried about heat, they're worried about power outages, they're worried about what they're going to do when these issues happen and how they can address them, and also what resources cities, governments, or whoever may be close to them are providing. We also learned that increasing access to often confusing climate data helps build resiliency. Our hope and one of the goals with the People Tool framework is that this will become a publicly available resource that kind of cuts through a lot of the scientific and academic jargon to help people really understand what's happening in their communities so that they can, again, become more self-sufficient and empowered. We also learned that peer sharing and learning between local communities increases their adaptive capacity. And that's what these tools intend to do. The case studies, again, will also be published and publicly available with the goal of showing people what's out there. When we talked to a lot of the organizations, they were like, we're really excited to become a resilience hub, But what are the first steps? We think we know what we want to provide, but what does that really look like in action? And so being able to show people a vast array of both networks and organizations that are doing similar work, tackling similar issues with similar communities really helps them figure out how they can really push forward. And then finally, we learned that resilience initiatives are most powerful when they promote shared resources and strategy building that comes from the community. A lot of times folks can come in and think they know what a community needs to kind of become more resilient, but what we found is that when folks have an opportunity to engage in this peer sharing, in this peer learning that is driven by the community, they're most effective. So how can you help? What's our call to action? Climate resilience is something that every single community is dealing with right now. You may have different levels of vulnerability, but it's a shared issue. I would say our first offer or call to action is to look through our people tool, see what's in there. It looks at everything from how occupation and industry are impacted by climate resilience to what existing, health indicators are really impacted. But really dive into that information. Look at what climate resilience hubs are around you and see how you can support them. This is focused in Wayne County, but even as the rural team mentioned earlier, climate resilience efforts are happening everywhere. They're definitely happening in your community. Finding a way to connect with them, support them, and also share that out with your community makes everyone stronger and more resilient. Finally, we want to give some special thank yous to the Wayne County team, specifically Cara Dietz and Aaron Kelly. They provided us with so much support, so many resources, especially as we tackled the People Tool framework. We also want to thank Dow and our mentor Han, who provided some really key and integral support as we kind of figured out what does project management look like on this pretty big project that had a lot of different moving pieces. And then we'd also like to thank the Graham Institute for selecting us for this and making this opportunity possible.